"Candace, what in God's name did you just do to my daughter?" Marcus Villa's roar was a gunshot echoing across the pristine patio. This wasn't the tone of a surprised man. It was the voice of a father pushed to the absolute edge. Candace spun around, her wet footprints staining the expensive travertine stone by the pool's edge. For a split second, her face was blank, utterly trapped. Anna, Marcus's 6-year-old daughter, was floundering in the shallow end. One small arm was awkwardly encased in a bright pink cast. Her lips trembled as she fought to keep her face above the water. Her worn-out teddy bear, Charlie, floated lifelessly beside her, soaked and heavy. She likes the water," Candace stammered, raising her hands in a gesture of fake innocence. "She always says it calms her down." "Marcus, you know that." Marcus didn't answer with words. He sprinted, launching himself over the edge, shoes and all. He scooped Anna into his arms, cradling her drenched, trembling body against his chest. The plaster cast dripped heavily. She clung to him, shaking. "My God," he muttered under his breath. "Your cast is soaked through, Anna. Honey, can you breathe? Are you okay?" She didn't speak. She never did. "What city are you watching this video from, and what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. Not since Rachel died." Anna had fallen into a profound, traumatic silence 2 years ago, after her mother, Marcus's late wife, passed away suddenly. Not a single word since, just an occasional low hum when she clutched Charlie, the ragged bear she took everywhere. Now she just stared at him with wide, terrified eyes, filled with a pure, paralyzing fear that ripped Marcus's soul apart. He stood up, water streaming from his designer suit, still holding her. He turned slowly toward Candace, who now managed to look offended rather than concerned. "She slipped," Candace snapped, her voice turning sharp. "Why are you yelling at me like I pushed her?" "I saw you," Marcus said, his voice deadly calm. "You pushed her. You pushed my daughter into a swimming pool, with a broken arm. She's being dramatic, Marcus. She's mute, not—" He took a step forward, dripping pool water onto the dry stones, Anna shivering in his arms. "She can't scream. She can't call for help. And you pushed her into a pool because—" "What? She spilled her juice? She didn't say thank you fast enough? Don't talk to me like I'm some kind of monster." "Then stop acting like one." Without a moment of hesitation, Marcus grabbed Candace by her forearm and shoved her hard, straight into the deep end of the pool. The splash was a thunderclap in the quiet Paradise Valley afternoon. Candace resurfaced with a shriek, mascara running in black rivers, her expensive blonde hair plastered to her face. "Are you insane?" "I'm not insane," Marcus growled, his voice a low predator's rumble. "I'm a father, one who finally woke up." Anna's head burrowed into his neck, soaking his shirt. Her small fingers gripped his collar with all the strength she had. He held her tighter and stormed back into the house, his heart hammering. His mind, once clouded by grief and a desperate need for normalcy, was now cutting through the lies like a razor. And everything started to click. The bruises on Anna's shins that Candace had dismissed as clumsy playground accidents. The night terrors, the way Anna flinched whenever she heard footsteps approaching from behind. The day she refused to eat because Candace cooked, and something smelled like fear. And the camera footage. What about the goddamn cameras? Marcus had a state-of-the-art security system installed around the sprawling property last year, but when he'd tried to check the recordings the day Anna chipped her tooth, the files were gone. Corrupted. Always, during those specific moments. He hadn't said anything then. Maybe it was a technical glitch. Maybe he was just being paranoid. But after the suspicions raised by Lena, his sister, and the way Marta, their longtime housekeeper, had been suddenly fired after asking about a bruise on Anna's wrist, he had acted. Silently. He had hidden 2 additional cameras, completely off the main system. Not synced to the network. Only he knew they existed. He strode into his private study, a room of dark wood and glass overlooking the desert landscape. He placed Anna gently on the soft leather armchair by the cold fireplace. She curled up immediately, clutching Charlie to her chest. Her soaked cast made a soft thud against the cushion. He brushed the wet hair from her face. "Daddy's got you, honey. No one is ever going to hurt you again." She didn't respond, but her eyes moved just enough to hold his gaze, and for the first time in months, he saw a flicker of trust. That's when he knew. He logged into the private hard drive connected to the hidden cameras. He fast-forwarded to 2 days prior. Clip 1, Candace, yanking Anna's good arm so hard the little girl stumbled. Clip 2, last week. Candace, slamming a bowl down on the table, yelling in Anna's silent face. You think you're special just because you're broken, don't you? Clip 3, last month. Candace, glass of wine in hand, kicking Charlie across the floor. I'm so sick of this goddamn bear. It was all there. Every missing piece. Every gut feeling Marcus had tried to silence with logic. He watched the recordings with a cold, sickening horror. He clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles turned white. This wasn't a woman under stress. This was calculated cruelty. And he had invited it into his daughter's life. His voice broke as he whispered to Anna, I should have seen this. I'm so sorry. A soft breath escaped her lips. She didn't speak, but her fingers stretched out and lightly touched his hand. He grabbed his phone. He called Lena. Come home, he said, his voice thick. And bring Roger. I need legal counsel and I need my sister. Marcus, what happened? She pushed Anna into the pool. With the cast, silence. Then, we'll be there in 15 minutes. As he hung up, Marcus paced, his wet clothes still clinging to him. The world outside his mansion seemed distant now. This wasn't about his image, not about the upcoming charity gala, not about appearances. This was about Anna, the daughter who had watched her mother die, the daughter who had swallowed her own voice just to survive, the daughter whose wounds weren't just on her skin but in her silence. And now, he had proof. Tonight would be the last night Candace ever set foot in this house. He looked back at Anna, still trembling slightly, but watching him now, as if waiting. He crossed the room, sat on the edge of the chair, and pulled her into his lap. We're going to be okay, he murmured. Daddy sees everything now. I promise. I see you. She rested her head against his chest, and for a brief, fleeting instant he felt it. A steady, safe breath, and for the first time in years, he believed it too. The next morning came too fast, announced by a pale Arizona dawn that painted the desert sky in soft gold. But Marcus Villa hadn't slept. He'd sat at the edge of Anna's bed all night, his dress shirt still damp from the pool, his mind a whirlwind of guilt, rage, and resolve. Anna had finally fallen asleep. Her small body was curled under the duvet, still clutching Charlie. Her soaked cast had been carefully wrapped in towels. He'd already called the pediatric clinic for an emergency appointment to have it reset that afternoon. But the real damage, the one inside her, was harder to reach. The doorbell chimed. He moved quickly, carefully, not wanting to wake her. He checked the security monitor. Lena, his older sister, stood on the doorstep, purse slung over one shoulder, her lips pressed into a thin line of worry. Beside her stood Roger Stone, retired lawyer, Vietnam vet, and lifelong family friend. He opened the door. Lena brushed past him first, heading straight for him. No hello. Just a hard, stinging slap across his shoulder. That, she snapped, is for letting this go on for months. Marcus blinked, surprised. I deserve worse. Yes, you do, she said. Then her expression softened. Now where is my niece? Sleeping, finally. Roger nodded grimly. Let's talk. They moved to the study. The air was thick with the scent of dark roast coffee and stale guilt. Marcus opened his laptop and turned the screen toward them. I installed hidden cams after the main ones started failing. I didn't want to believe it. But I knew, he pressed play. The images rolled by, fragments of Candace's cruelty stitched together with brutal clarity. Each clip was time-stamped, each one more damning than the last. Lena let out a choked sob. Roger didn't speak, his jaw tightening with every passing minute. When the final clip finished, the one of Candace shoving Anna into the pool, Roger finally spoke. You need to file for an emergency protective order. Today, as in right now. I'm her biological father, Marcus said. There's no custody battle. She could sue you, Roger said darkly. Candace has no legal rights. But if she takes this to the media, claims emotional abuse from you, claims retaliation. You're in for a world of hell. Public opinion matters when kids are involved, Marcus exhaled. Let her try. I have enough here to bury her. Lena's eyes flashed. You know what hurts the most? That little girl hasn't said a word in 2 years, and yet she was screaming louder than anyone without ever opening her mouth. That hit him. Marcus rubbed his temples. I was building a life, trying to keep everything afloat, running from the grief. I guess I wasn't protecting her. Not until now, Lena said. I know. He leaned forward. So what's the plan? I'll call my PR team later. We keep this quiet for now. I'll make sure Candace is served the papers. She's not setting foot in this house again. As if summoned by her name, Candace's voice trilled from the upstairs landing. Marcus? He looked up, his eyes narrowing. Don't tell me she's still here, Lena whispered. I let her sleep in the guest room. Marcus muttered. I didn't want to make a scene in front of Anna. Footsteps. Then Candace descended the stairs, dressed impeccably, as if last night's events were just an unfortunate misunderstanding. Hair curled, makeup perfect, smile rehearsed. Well, she said breezily, that was quite an overreaction last night, don't you think? Sit down, Marcus said, his voice cold. Candace's eyes flicked to Lena and Roger. Her smile faltered. What is this? An intervention? Marcus didn't blink. We have you on video, all of it. You hurting my daughter, yelling at her, pushing her, insulting her. You thought you erased the footage. You missed the backups. Candace's face went pale, but she recovered quickly. Now you're spying on me? That's abuse, Marcus. Roger let out a dry chuckle. Ma'am, I've seen better liars in county lockup. You won't get away with this, Candace hissed. I'll go public. I'll say you're unstable, that you fabricated everything. No jury will believe a mute kid over me. Marcus's voice dropped an octave. Try me. There was something final in the way he said it. Like a vault door closing. A line crossed. Candace wavered, feeling the ground shift beneath her. You're just ending this? Just like that? No, Marcus said. You ended this the moment you put your hands on my child. She stormed out. He didn't follow. Roger turned to Marcus. We'll draft the protective order this afternoon. I'll call a judge I trust, Marcus nodded. Thank you. An hour later, Candace's bags were packed. Lena watched silently from the doorway as Marcus escorted her to the front gate. No words, no apologies. Just one long, hard stare before the heavy front door closed behind her for the last time. By then, Anna had woken up. Her new cast was dry and wrapped. She was sitting at the kitchen table, quietly coloring in a drawing pad with one hand. Marcus knelt beside her. She's gone, honey. She's not coming back. Anna kept coloring. A few moments passed before she stopped. She turned the book slightly, revealing a drawing she'd made. A tall man, a little girl, and Charlie. The man was holding the girl's hand. A lump formed in Marcus's throat. That's us, she nodded once. He smiled, blinking rapidly. It's a masterpiece. She picked up the red crayon and scribbled a heart above them. She didn't need to speak. She had said everything. Before we continue, please take a moment to leave a comment about this story and rate it from 1 to 10. How are you feeling? If there's anything you'd like to share, I'm always here to listen. I hope you find a moment of peace and reflection as you follow this healing story and its journey of courage and justice. That afternoon, Marcus sat in the sterile, overly bright waiting room of the pediatric orthopedics clinic. The silence here was different from the silence at home. It was a dull, anxious void, punctuated only by the soft beeps of machines and the rustle of parenting magazines he couldn't bring himself to read. He looked at the other parents, some looking worried, others bored. He felt a sudden, sharp pang of shame. Had they seen the signs in their own lives? Or was he the only one who had been so profoundly blind? Anna sat beside him, her small legs dangling from the chair, not speaking, just watching everything with those wide, silent eyes. She didn't seem scared, not like last night. She seemed observant, resigned. A nurse finally called her name. Anna Villa. Inside the exam room, the technician was warm, but Marcus couldn't help but notice the man's eyes lingering on the faint, yellowish bruises peeking out just above the soaked, ruined cast. Let's get Dr. Evans to take a look before we reset this, the tech said, his voice a little too cheerful. Dr. Evans was a tall woman in her 50s, with kind eyes that held a no-nonsense sharpness. She examined Anna's arm, murmuring gentle words of encouragement, asking her to make small movements, praising her for being brave. Anna remained silent, a perfect, compliant doll. Then Dr. Evans turned to Marcus. She pulled the rolling stool closer and lowered her voice, creating a small bubble of privacy. This cast wasn't wrapped correctly when it was first applied, she said, her voice low and serious. The padding is dangerously uneven. She has significant skin irritation here. She then pointed gently, her gloved finger hovering just above the discolored skin. And these. Mr. Villa, these are not from a simple fall. These are grip marks, distinct fingertip bruising. Marcus felt his throat tighten, the sterile air in the room suddenly too thin to breathe. I know, Doctor. Dr. Evans held his gaze, her own softening with something that looked like pained understanding. Do you have documentation of what happened? Yes, he said, his voice hard, trying to contain the tremor of rage. Video, audio, timestamps, and a witness. I've already filed for emergency protection. The woman, she is out of the house. Permanently. The doctor nodded once, a sharp, definitive movement. Good, she said firmly, because this child, she smiles when you aren't looking. I saw her in the hallway. That tells me she still believes you're her safe place. It tells me she's still in there. Don't break that trust again. It took a full hour to carefully cut off the wet, damaged cast and replace it with a new bright purple one Anna silently pointed to. She didn't flinch, not once, though her small, unbroken fingers curled white-knuckled around Charlie. The entire time she stared straight ahead, her lips pressed together in that way Marcus now recognized as her silent, defiant battle stance. Back home, the mansion felt different, quieter, not the eerie, fearful quiet that had settled in over the last few months, but a calmer, more profound stillness. It felt like the first gulp of fresh air after surfacing from dangerously deep water. Lena had stayed, and in the hours they were gone, she had already purged the guest room of Candace's things, ordered groceries, and was now loudly organizing the pantry, filling the space with her own brash, comforting, protective energy. She okay? Lena asked, handing Marcus a steaming mug of coffee he hadn't asked for but desperately needed. Marcus nodded, hanging Anna's small, damp backpack on the hook by the door. Physically, yes. The doctor confirmed. Everything we thought. He didn't need to say more. Emotionally, she's a Villa, Lena said, her voice rough. She'll carry the weight until someone proves to her she doesn't have to. Anna padded into the living room, her new purple cast bright against the neutral colors of the sofa. She climbed up, curled into the corner with Charlie, and simply sat. The TV was off. She didn't ask for cartoons or her tablet. She just sat, staring at the empty, cold fireplace as if trying to remember what it looked like when it was lit. I need you to see this, Marcus said to Lena, his voice heavy. He motioned his sister into his study. He pulled up the hidden camera clips again, but this time, he also loaded the separate audio files from the microphone hidden behind the fireplace mantel. He skipped to the one from a week ago. First the video, Candace looming over Anna, who had spilled a glass of water. Then the audio. I'm not your goddamn maid. You think I owe you something just because your real mommy died? She's gone. She left you. Get used to it. Lena flinched as if struck, a hand flying to her mouth. That monster. Several times, Marcus replied grimly, the guilt churning in his stomach. I missed it all. I was in New York for the IPO roadshow. I was in Boston for board approvals. I was busy building a legacy, trying to make us look like a normal family on the outside, while she was tearing my real legacy. My daughter, apart on the inside. Lena looked at him, her eyes hard but not unkind. So what now, Marcus? What's the real plan? Roger is handling the permanent protective order. He's working with the DA, but for Anna, I've already contacted the therapist Rachel used to trust, Dr. Robles. He still runs his child trauma program. I've booked an evaluation for tomorrow. And work? Marcus gave a short, bitter laugh. I told my board I'm taking an indefinite leave of absence. Effective immediately. Lena's eyebrows shot up. You? Mr. IPO is stepping back? I'm not stepping back, he said, his voice raw. I'm stepping up. Fatherhood. For real this time. Whatever it takes. Lena's expression finally softened into a weary smile. About damn time. They went back to the living room. The silence was heavy but different. Marcus sat down on the sofa, a few feet from Anna. He felt a gulf between them, one he had allowed Candace to dig. He didn't know how to bridge it. He pulled out his phone, scrolling aimlessly, before landing on a photo. It was from 3 years ago, just before the accident, a trip to La Jolla. Rachel, her face bright with laughter, was holding a tiny Anna upside down by the ankles, both of them shrieking with joy. He held the phone out. Remember this? Anna stared at the screen for a long time. Her mouth twitched, the smallest, faintest beginning of something. Then, with her good hand, she lifted the tattered corner of Charlie's ear and used it to tap the screen once, gently, on Rachel's smiling face. Marcus swallowed the lump in his throat. It felt like a boulder. You miss her? A small, slow nod. Me too, he whispered, his own voice thick. Every single day, he remembered something. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn velvet box he'd started carrying after the funeral, unable to put it in a safety deposit box. You know what this is? Anna blinked, her eyes curious. He opened it. Inside, nestled on the faded silk, was Rachel's locket, a simple, small gold heart. She'd worn it every day, never taking it off. I think she would want you to have this, he whispered, to remember her, and to know that she would be so proud of the brave girl you are. Anna reached for it slowly, her small fingers trembling. She didn't take the locket. She closed the box, held it tightly to her chest, and for the first time in 2 solid years, she smiled, faint, fragile as a butterfly's wing. But it was real. It was a start. The sun was sinking behind the red rock ridges of Scottsdale, painting the sky in violent strokes of orange and purple as Marcus sat on the back patio. The evening air carried that dry Arizona chill that settled in the bones. Anna was asleep upstairs, her new purple cast propped on pillows, the box with Rachel's locket still clutched tightly in her hand. He hadn't wanted to leave her side, not even for a second. But Lena had insisted, pushing a plate of food he hadn't touched into his hands. Even soldiers get to stand down, Marcus. Go breathe. She's safe. He wasn't sure he agreed, but he went outside anyway, needing the cold air to clear his head. The patio lights glowed amber. The backyard, the scene of yesterday's horror, felt different. It was the kind of silence that comes after the storm. The devastating aftermath. The first fragile moments of healing. He leaned back, sipping a black coffee that had long gone cold. His phone buzzed. A text from Roger, protective order confirmed. Candace has been served. No legal contact. Police report filed. He exhaled deeply, the knot in his chest loosening by a fraction. One more brick in the wall. The living room TV clicked on. Lena was flipping channels, her face grim. She landed on the local evening news. Marcus watched the flickering light, then followed it back into the house. Did you see this? She asked, her voice dripping with disgust as she pointed at the screen. Candace's face filled the television. She was standing in front of a downtown office building, mascara streaked, clutching a tissue in a performance of a lifetime. Behind her, a banner read, Villa Enterprises Community Gala, canceled. I did everything for that little girl, Candace cried into the swarm of microphones. I stepped into a home without a mother. I gave her my love. I tried to help a grieving, unstable man, only to be violently thrown into a pool like trash. He's unhinged. He's violent. That poor child. I'm so worried. He's using her as a pawn. Marcus didn't blink. He just watched, a cold, clear rage settling over him. She's faster than I thought. Lena crossed her arms. We knew she'd fight back. You're a billionaire, Marcus. She's not going for custody. She's going for your reputation. She's going for your wallet. The reporter circled Candace, who turned away theatrically, sobbing that she feared for her life. Marcus turned the TV off. The room plunged back into silence. She's bluffing, he said, his voice dangerously quiet. She has nothing to prove any of it. That's not the point. Lena snapped. She doesn't need to prove it. She just needs to plant the doubt. In your world, Marcus, doubt sticks. Doubt costs money. Doubt is a weapon. Marcus looked at his sister, then past her, to the hallway leading to Anna's room. Then we'll shine a brighter light on the truth. What are you planning? A counter-statement? A lawsuit? Everything, he said. Candace thought she was careful. She thought she was only bullying a mute child. But she forgot one thing. You can't erase what's been seen, especially when you aren't the only one watching. He disappeared into his study and returned, not with a laptop, but with a thick bound manila folder. Inside were the printed transcripts, not just of the hidden camera clips, but of the high-fidelity audio recordings from the secondary mic he'd installed behind the fireplace mantel after the glitches started. Every curse. Every insult. Every whispered threat. It was all there, itemized, time-stamped, and crystal clear. Lena scanned the top page, her face hardening. I am so sick of this goddamn bear. You think you're special just because you're broken? You're giving this to the press? She whispered. No, he said, closing the folder. Not the press, not yet. I'm giving it to someone bigger, someone she can't spin. Lena looked up, confused. 3 years ago, Marcus said, his voice finding a new, steel-edged resolve. Rachel helped fund a nonprofit. Silent Hope. It's a foundation for nonverbal and mute children. They run a national awareness campaign. They partner with the Justice Department. They specialize in helping children testify in court without ever having to speak. He paused. The memory of his wife, so passionate and alive, flooding back. She believed in it more than any investment I ever made. Lena's eyes widened as she understood. They'll take Anna's story, he said, his voice firming. They'll protect it, and they'll help us tell it the right way. With dignity, with truth, with evidence. That night, after making the arrangements with the Foundation's legal team, Marcus sat by Anna's bed again. She was curled under the heavy duvet Rachel's mother had made years ago, her breathing deep and even. He spoke quietly, not knowing if she was awake. Remember the beach? That trip to La Jolla? Her eyelashes fluttered. You found that big, swirly seashell. You held it to your ear and said it was Mommy's present from the ocean. You said you could hear her singing. She shifted, her eyes blinking, barely open in the dim light. Then, for the first time in 2 long, agonizing years, her lips parted, not for a smile, but to shape something. He leaned in, his heart stopping. What is it, honey? Her mouth moved again, pushing the air out in a soundless whisper. Shell. It was silent, but it was perfectly clear. He froze, the single soundless word hitting him with the force of a physical blow. Then, as the tears he'd been holding back finally slid down his cheeks, he nodded. I'll go get it. He choked out. It's in my office. I'll go get it right now.